myself for paying top dollar for a computer that literally is being replaced in a week.
This, by the way, would be a perfect After Dark topic.
Yeah.
It would be.
We will get to that very shortly. Okay, gonna get this going. Right, we're broadcasting live right now. Hello, everyone. Hello. We're live in the chat.
Hello.
Hope everyone's doing okay. Let us get this show on the road. I am going to start recording in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slash Filmcast. I am David Chen, and joining me today are
Devendra Hardawar
and Jeff Kanata.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. What we got in store for you today on the podcast? We got a few things coming up for you. We got a couple of bits of film news. We got some emails we're going to read before moving on into some what we've been watching. And then concluding with an in-depth review. This week we are reviewing the Apple TV Plus original series, Ted Lasso, which is a 10-episode, 30 minutes each series that I watched this week because
just think of it like a 5-hour movie.
Devendra and Jeff wanted me to watch it. And you know what? They have been so cool about watching all the extremely depressing things that I've wanted to watch this summer that I'm like, I gotta give you guys a win on this one.
Yeah.
So we will talk about whether or not I actually enjoyed that process or not during our review of Ted Lasso later on. You can always find
David,
more.
It sounds like you have a little bit of pep in your step tonight. I'm feeling a little pep in your step.
A bit of Lasso. A bit of Lasso in his.
You got a little extra something going on? Is there like you're feeling good?
I mean, it's
more positive. The world seems a little sweeter.
It's not the same high I had after I saw The Devil All the Time. I'll say
it's not the same after marathoning every Saw movie. But,
it's not the same as what I feel when I do my Saw marathon everywhere. But it's like.
Not my usual putting my head in the microwave oven before we record.
No, I'm happy for a few reasons, but here's one of them, is because we got an email from Soren Pertz, who wrote into slashfilmcast@gmail.com with subject line, "You've just married your first couple of listeners." Soren writes in...
Oh no, I'm already married. I've married listeners too?
It's another country, different laws. Yeah.
Okay.
Soren writes
I'm into it.
Soren writes into slashfilmcast@gmail.com. This is Soren and Michelle writing from Munich, Germany. It is our great pleasure to write to you announcing that last week we became Mr. and Mrs. Pertz. That's right, we got married. Remember when you had your big 500th episode? One of the voicemails was Michelle telling you about how she met her then boyfriend through the Slack Filmcast community. Well, here we are now, a married couple. We believe that we are the first couple of listeners that met and got married because of the podcast, and we thought that you deserved to know about this sort of landmark for the show. Michelle moved from Brazil to Germany a bit later than planned due to 2020, and after some months of organizing the ceremony, we tied the knot on October 8th. With this donation and email, they donated by the way, we wanted to share the good news with you and hopefully brighten your day and the listeners a bit. For us, managing to get married amidst a global pandemic is a sign that ultimately love can prevail. Thank you for all the hours of entertainment that you've provided to our lives and to make our relationship stronger as we listen to the podcast, because as we learned it, laughing at Jeff's limericks can be a great bonding experience. Lastly, thank you for making this very international love story possible. If it wasn't for this podcast, there would be no Slack community, nor a happily married couple who now writes to you. Thank you very much, and to the next Mr. and Mrs. Slash Filmcast, Soren and Michelle.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's great.
That's incredible.
I love it.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, normally you have to give gifts to the people, to the newlyweds. I'm so happy they gave us their entire honeymoon fund, right? That's what they donated.
Yeah, I mean they can't use it. It's pandemic, right?
Yeah.
There's no need.
It's all for us now.
I will say they gave us enough money to buy a drink at a bar once this is all over and talk about their honeymoon. So
that's very generous. That's very generous.
Yes. Thank you.
My understanding, I mean, this is a very uncommon occurrence, but there is a rules in place for when this happens, and that is 3 children. Doesn't matter the sex, they are going to be named Dave, Devindra, and Jeff. That's the rule.
That's the rule. Yeah.
And if there was a fourth, it's Blef, and we don't talk about that.
I feel like for sure we actually announced this rule like a long time ago. That sounds familiar, right? Like we talked about.
They
it
have
before.
to be aware of it.
They have to be aware.
They have to be aware.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a binding contract.
Just make sure you start with Dave and work your way down the alphabet. Congratulations to Soren and Michelle. That's awesome.
I'm glad there's like an even happier ending to that story. You know, we were all kind of left on the hook there. Yeah, it's great.
Well, they're
because it would have been sad. It would have been sad if they
Filmcast.
it would have been sad if they broken up. And then it's like the Slash Filmcast is a constant source of pain for their lives, as it is for ours. You know,
I think you just made your first screenplay, Dave. Like that is like rom-com that needs to be made.
Yeah, Jeff, what were you gonna say?
Well, I think we know now, scientifically, exactly how long it takes from courtship through marriage, and that it is, seeing as how it is episode 588 tonight. It takes exactly 88 episodes, evidently, if they
around there. They had already been together for a while at episode 500, so it's not a great usage of measuring time / Filmcast episode numbering, but anyway, thanks to Soren and Michelle.
Congratulations!
And congratulations! What a heartwarming story. Love is possible even in these very uncertain times. A couple weeks ago, Jeff Kanata made a claim on the podcast that, like, the second the words were out of his mouth, I'm like, this has got to be wrong somehow. And part of me dies inside, never to recover, and then part of me prepares for all the emails that are going to come in, and that did in fact happen. A couple weeks ago, Jeff, you know what the claim you made was? You remember this?
That we wouldn't be reviewing Ted Lasso, and you had to quit the show.
No, you said there was no one had ever attempted a one take live movie in one cut of the dead.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, you were wrong.
And
I've
been wanting to watch this, by the way.
Many people wrote in about this, including Tom M. from Brighton in the United Kingdom. Tom writes in, "Hi guys, I know you're trying to think of TV shows that were one take and live, but a movie does spring to mind. Woody Harrelson filmed Lost in London live and broadcast it to cinemas back in 2017. It's been 3 years since I saw the movie, but I seem to remember it's all, or at least mostly, in one take. I didn't make it along to the original live viewing as it was filmed in the early hours of the morning, but did see it a few days later at a Q&A that Woody attended. Despite being extremely sleep-deprived, he stuck around for ages to shake hands and take photos with everyone present. It's just a shame about his 5G conspiracies tainting the memory." Pause here for a second. I didn't know that Woody Harrelson was into the 5G conspiracies.
Oh man, we're losing so many good people to this.
That is a bummer. Yeah. Let me Google that to make sure that's actually the case. Woody Harrelson.
You don't want to besmirch the
I don't want to
Woody's good
besmirch. Okay, yeah, and in April, Woody Harrelson among stars sharing coronavirus conspiracy theories tied to 5G, according to the New York Post. So, anyway, that's a bummer. Okay, so Tom M's emails continues. Been listening since the Quigley days, and the show's remained a firm favorite of mine. Thanks for all the great work. Do you think you'll ever set up a Patreon? I subscribe to Film Spotting and Blank Check's Patreons, and it's been great. I definitely subscribe to you guys, too, if you set one up. Hope you're all keeping safe.
You should do that.
Well, a couple things.
Should do that, Dave.
First of all, Lost in London, a lot of people wrote in about that, and I've actually heard that it's a great film.
Yeah.
So
a ton of people, and it's available both on Hulu and Amazon Prime. And I was actually meaning to watch it this week. I never got around to it, but I really want to check it out. I love the audacity of trying something like that. And most of the people that flagged it said that it was really good. So I'm kind of interested in checking it out.
All right. Well, and then there's this other suggestion you said about this Patreon, right? You know, Jeff, maybe we should just do what this guy says.
Yeah.
Like,
why don't you bang out some keystrokes now?
Yeah,
Dave,
hold on.
This.
Here,
we do have a long history of taking one person's suggestion.
Yeah, hold on. I'm typing. Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. Because what we've been doing is basically when one person suggests something, we'll completely alter the course of the podcast, right?
Yeah.
So
we sound like we're being massive dicks right now, by the way.
It's completely true.
but it's
No, but
actually
it's
true.
actually 100% true. You're saying
This is
you're
the
saying
worst
we'd be
form
dicks.
of government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're saying we'd be dicks if we were being sarcastic, right? But we're
Right,
actually
exactly.
we're actually being extremely truthful, sadly.
It's hard to tell with us, but we are being truthful.
So yeah, I mean, if you are interested in checking out the Patreon, just go to patreon.com/filmpodcast. That's
Did
patreon.com.
you just do that in 30 seconds, Dave?
It was so
Man.
fast. It was so fast.
Wow.
Patreon.com/the-word-film-podcast. Maybe next week we'll talk a little bit more about this, because since we put it together just
It's very
now,
abrupt. It was.
in the
very,
last 30
very
seconds.
impulsive.
In the last 30 seconds, but next week maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to check out what the Patreon might be, you can go to patreon.com/the-word-film-podcast.
Yes. And not /filmcast, because that is something else.
That's taken. Some other dude
Not
has
us.
that. Some other dude has that.
Yeah.
But we are
How dare they?
patreon.com/the-word-film-podcast. Okay. What else has happened this week that I want to mention before we get to what we've been watching? So we've been talking about the theatrical film industry's collapse over the course of the last few weeks.
Just that little thing. Yeah.
Go to our Patreon. Go to our Patreon.
that old chestnut. And I had predicted that, like, basically all movies would pull out. We talked last week, I think, about Dune, right, moving out of theaters.
Yeah.
No Time to Die had moved out of theaters. Batman had pushed an additional year. That left basically the only movies this year were Soul, the new Pixar movie that was going to come out around Thanksgiving, and Wonder Woman. And this week, the penultimate domino fell, which is that Soul, the new Pixar movie, is going to launch on Disney Plus this holiday season, which is notable for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's one of the few remaining kind of tentpoles or 4-quadrant movies that we're going to launch this year. That's bye-bye. Second thing is, it is not doing a Mulan strategy of charging people $30 premium. It's just going straight to Disney Plus. So Mulan's gambit was such a resounding failure that they're like, we're not even going to try to milk money out of people again. Like, we're just going to go straight to the Disney Plus.
It's
so
so
in the
fascinating to
future,
me.
henceforth, it will be known as the Mulan Gambit. That's how we will
Mulan
remember
Gambit.
it.
Yeah.
The idea that
This Patreon is a Mulan Gambit, by the way. I just want to put that out there. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
As a consumer, I'm pleased by this turn of events for Soul, because I'm excited to see that movie. I love Pixar. I'm excited to see that movie, and I'll get to see it this year sitting at home without risking my life. But it's so bizarre to me that there's some calculus that can say this theatrical movie can be basically turned into a straight to video, straight to DVD, straight to home streaming experience, and there will be some upside for Disney. Like I guess there's some bean counters telling us that there will be an uptick in Disney Plus subscribers because of this.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And also, they're just
so.
working with the world they have right now, right? So I'm sure the math looks different if everything was functioning. Yeah.
Well, they could have done what everybody else is doing, which is kicking the can down the road, and said Soul will come out in 2021 at some point. We don't know. But they didn't. They have this other avenue that is all theirs. And that's different than a lot of these other places. Although, who knows? We may be seeing that start to crop up more and more where, we get the studio-centric streaming services. But, it's fascinating to me that that's happening. I think it's a positive for me as a person that wants to see this movie at some point. And I kind of wish a lot of these other, Disney could do that with Black Widow. They could if they wanted to. So I don't know what's different about Soul than Black Widow. I guess Black Widow had a bigger potential upside in movie theaters, perhaps.
You probably
than
don't
the
want
Pixar movie.
scores of families going to see your movie over the holidays and then dying.
Well, I think families would probably go see Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the same,
Not quite.
There are some interesting promotional possibilities they have by putting this on the service. Like, they could sell, discounted bundles. They could sell discounted yearly subscriptions, things of that nature. There's a few options that this gives them from a marketing perspective to have Soul on the platform. But yeah, I think I'm interpreting it as kind of the Mulan strategy didn't exactly do what they wanted it to do. And so now they think there's more value that's going to accrue to them by putting it on the service than not doing so.
Yeah, most definitely. And also they're dealing with like failing parks, and things like people not really going to the parks either. So they need the gambits. That's why they're trying all the gambits at this point.
Josh Spiegel, I tweeted about this story, and Josh Spiegel, who is an occasional /film.com contributor, and he's a very knowledgeable writer about Disney. He responded, he's like, there's other wrinkles to this situation. They may want to drive up gift subscriptions, and Soul will now arrive the Friday after the Mandalorian Season 2 finale.
Wow.
But still,
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
But still, if they thought charging would get them a decent return, they would charge, end quote. So I agree with that. Like, if they really felt like they could rake it in with this, they would still charge, but they're not doing it. They feel like it's better, it's more value the other way. I've been haunted by this this tweet thread I read earlier today by Whitney Seibold. And this comes hot on the heels of the fact that Disney announced today that they're reorganizing the company around basically Disney Plus, right? Like that they essentially see Disney Plus as the future of their primary media production, right? Like this is where they are going to invest their money, their time, their attention, their resources.
Makes sense, man. Works for Netflix, right?
Yep. Whitney Seibold tweeted, quote, I'm haunted daily by something Spielberg once said about the future of movie theaters, that Hollywood would go the way of Broadway, and that only a few premium theaters would show mega blockbusters for hundreds of bucks a pop, while more intimate dramas would play on the cheap. The Disney announcement today with the shuttering of Regal buildings and the recent end of the Paramount vertical integration laws all seem to be playing into that future. The world is now ideally set up for studios to buy a few premium theaters and use them exclusively for their own half-dozen giganto blockbusters a year. No other films will play in these theaters. All their other films will be only available at home. There will, of course, always be plucky local rep houses and indie theaters hiding in the landscape, and great art will be on display in those venues, but they will be a niche destination for cinephiles and have no real impact on the conversation. If you value the theatrical experience, get used to the idea of saving up for $450 Avatar sequels or tiny black boxes owned by wealthy film-loving enthusiasts. Soon, it seems, there will be nothing else. Now, I don't agree that we're going to end up there. I don't agree it's going to be $450 a seat for Avatar.
It's going to be bad, though. It's not going to be like...
I agree a lot of this could come
multiplex
true.
lives.
I agree a lot of this could come true, and it could be like, I could see it being like $30 or $50 a ticket. Like that seems
easy.
very, very possible if multiplexes as we know them die out, which it feels very possible that that's going to happen.
Well, it's interesting to me that we looked at Tenet as this Hail Mary to save theater going experiences as we know them, and what it may actually have been is the first canary in the coal mine for how theatrical experiences are going to be, in that it is for a very small group of people that can do it, and the rest of us wait for the streaming at home version.
Scott Mendelsohn actually wrote a pretty good piece about this at Forbes this week. He said the headline is Chris Nolan's Tenet was the right movie at the wrong time, and that's the headline. And his thesis is basically like, we were counting on Tenet to be this 4-quadrant event movie, and that really was never what that movie was supposed to be. It was supposed to be this kind of cerebral counter-programming, and it just kind of got positioned as, oh, this movie is going to save movie theaters, and
it was supposed to be the anti-Bond, and who knows if it would even have like made as much money as the Bond that was supposed to come out this year.
It's like the anti-Bond, the anti, I was gonna say Transformers, but there's no Transformers movies this year, but like the anti, Fast and Furious, like, hey, you want a thinker, go see Tenet.
Thinking and plus action. Wow.
But my point is, like, if you had asked me before Tenet if I would pay a premium to go see it, I would have immediately said, yeah, I probably would. I would probably pay a very high premium to go see Tenet in movie theaters.
Yeah.
Having lived through it and come out the other side and gone, well, waiting to December 15th isn't turning out to be so bad.
Yeah.
I may be changing my tune on that. I may be the kind of thing where it's like, we have these, if that future comes to pass and we have these, $50, $70 per ticket to go see, the next big Marvel movie or the next big Star Wars movie or whatever the premium, big screen AAA experience is. I think had COVID not happened and we weren't forced to stay home, I'm not sure I would have just been like, oh, that sucks, but that's just the way the world is now. I need to see these immediately. And now I kind of go, I don't think I believe that anymore. I really don't. I mean, there will still be, if Endgame had come out, I probably would have paid whatever I needed to pay to see Endgame, right? But there are some movies, I think there's a lot of movies that I would love to see in the movie theater where I would go like, if I have to pay $50 to go see it, I'm not gonna.
Right.
I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah.
Because it'll be here in a month or two.
So sort of like the way IMAX movies have been for a lot of people, right? Because the IMAX theatrical was always like, there were so many IMAX screens, but you gotta be close to like a full size real IMAX, and that was a thing you pay a lot more for. And I would wait to see movies on that screen specifically and pay through the nose for it. So it's going to be like that. One thing I want to throw out there, by the way, is Disney's clearly preparing for a long winter. And I think everybody's been saying like, well, yeah, of many things. Yeah. But yeah, we don't know what the second wave of COVID is going to look like, but people are going to be home. People are going to be antsy. They're going to be bored. They want to be entertained. Why not be the service that everybody loves with all the stuff they want to see? This may just be their strategy for the next year or so until we're through this, but it makes complete sense for Disney because that's what they want to be. They want to be your one-stop entertainment shop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing, tying it to Disney that just occurred to me is we have actually the perfect analogy. I mean, the perfect, like 1-to-1 analogy. And that is Hamilton. Right? Because I really considered spending hundreds of dollars to see Hamilton. And yes, I did not get that live experience, which I value, especially as somebody who loves theater. I did not get that live experience. And there's something I did miss out on. But also, I just waited and I watched it at home and it was pretty great. So that is, if this version of the future comes true, where it is, Steven Spielberg's sort of prediction of it being like live theater, we have the exact experience of that, where people paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars to see Hamilton. My wife and I had a serious conversation about getting on a plane and flying to New York to see Hamilton, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever that was, and didn't do it. And I just never got around to seeing it. And then it was streaming at my house and I got to see it for free, for basically free. So, I think that's kind of the proposition at this point. And that's why a Disney Plus is such an interesting, talk about gambits, they have this way to recoup that's just sitting there that they own all the bits of. So
Indeed. Well, we'll continue monitoring the fate of the industry as the weeks roll on.
One day we will see Tenet. One day.
I think
December
15th
is
December
that day.
15th coming out in Blu-ray. So I'm looking forward to that.
We'll be doing a review.
That'll be the review of the Slash Filmcast review of Tenet is in December. So yeah.
I do kind of want to see it at a drive-in eventually, just because I've been here so long and I know there are drive-ins around me. So I just need free time and the ability to go there. So that's all.
All right.
Aren't you the one that was saying that it's worse? The drive-in experience is worse? Yeah.
It is worse. It is bad, but at this point, the movie doesn't sound like the thing we were all like hoping for it to be. So it's like I don't actually care that much anymore. So we'll see.
All right. Before we move on to what we've been watching, I want to acknowledge two things. In the last segment, we talked a little bit about the Patreon blithely. I do want to say that is a real thing. It's not just a fake thing we put up. We will talk about it more next week. But yeah, it's a real page.
Please give us real money, not fake money.
It's a real page, and there will be real things behind it. And you can go to patreon.com/thewordfilmpodcast. But I also want to acknowledge, folks, that we have already received our very first patron.
Whoa! It happened in real time.
It happened in real time. Jose Cordova became the first person.
Jose Cordova. I know that name. I've interacted with Jose.
Lovely.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jose.
Jose Cordova
We
became
should give
the
Jose some sort of a title. First patron.
Very creative, Jeff.
This is why people will pay us the big bucks.
You nailed it, Jeff. You nailed it.
That's why I'm the idea man, Dave.
Thanks, Jose. And again, we'll talk more about the Patreon next week. But it is real, even though we were kind of being facetious about it. It's a real thing. We'll talk more about it next week. Jeff Kanata.
We just need 4,000 more Jose's.
I mean, if we got 4,000 more Jose's, we'd be in pretty good
Happy.
state. Pretty good state.
We'd all be very happy.
We'd be all good. We'd be all good.
That's such a tiny
It's
fraction
such a
of the
small
total people listening.
It's such a small fraction of the number of people listening to this episode right now. It's literally 0.001% of the people listening to this. No, I'm
and
just
if you
joking.
if you want to be don't let your friends be the Jose. Just jump in. Anyway. What are we talking about?
Victor Di Giovanni in the chat room says we should call him Patron Zero, which I think is very good.
Oh,
Patron
very
Zero.
nice.
Patron Zero? That's pretty good.
Jeff Kanata, what have you watched this week?
I hope his ideas spread like a virus, Dave.
Great.
I've been watching a lot of
language.
stuff.
Great language.
It's it's the language of our times. Why not embrace it?
Rochelle Prentice became second donor, by the way, just now as we're talking.
Let's just turn the show into a live update of our patrons.
It's just it's incredible that a few dozen people are listening, but people are already contributing. Okay, I'll stop. Thank you to the people who've already donated. Rochelle,
we just
and Jose.
need 3,999 more.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah,
We can all quit our jobs.
and then we can all
It's
quit
great.
the jobs. Okay, Jeff,
Yeah.
what have you watched this week?
Show would be so much better if we didn't have jobs, you guys. I'm just saying.
All right, Jeff, what are you watching this week?
I have watched a number of things this week. Let's start with some of that Emily in Paris. I heard a lot of people talking about the Emily in Paris. My wife and I sat down and checked that out. It's a new Netflix show created by one of the creators of Sex and the City. This is the story of young Emily, who through a wacky series of events finds
Where does she
herself.
go, Jeff? Where does she go?
Well,
This title
she
has
starts,
me really confused.
She starts in Chicago, Devindra, and you'll never believe where she ends
Oh my
up.
god. Oh my god.
Emily finds herself in Paris. It is
What?
a shocking turn. And they do it right there in the first episode. It's
Incredible.
crazy.
That's really
Yeah.
confident. It's confident is what it is.
Yeah, it's like calling your shot. It's like, you know.
Agreed.
Um,
What is wrong with us? Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
everything. We have two patrons. We're drunk with power. This show is garbage, but it is delightful garbage, right? It's cotton candy. My wife has been eating it up, and knowingly that and it's not that great, but it is sort of easy breezy, relax watching. There's enough kind of good-natured charm in the show. There's a lot of sort of travel porn, wonderfully shot vistas of the Parisian skyline. Very attractive
What a perfect
people.
timing, right? Like this is the time when we can't go anywhere. So it's like, yes, put Americans in Paris. That's where we all want to be. Thank you very much, Netflix. That's all.
Jeff?
Did we lose you, Jeff?
Do we lose Jeff?
Jeff's audio seemed like it was coming in and out a little too. So would not be surprised if we just lost his internet.
Damn, this was going really well until that point.
Going so good.
While we're waiting,
Yep.
oh, he's gone.
I hope we get his audio. Okay.
It's fine.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
recording
oh.
backups too. Jeff,
Okay.
Jeff, are you there? Fuck.
We are losing sync with Jeff.
Yeah, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
We might need to use the non-Zencaster recording tonight. Then, I'm making a
That's fine.
backup recording.
Okay.
Specifically for this purpose. Oh, Jeff said he can hear us both, but we
That's
cannot.
very
We cannot
weird.
hear him.
It may have changed your mic, but also you're coming you're disappearing and reappearing.
I think I
in
should
the,
stop. I think I should stop this recording
Yes.
and start over again.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna stop recording.
Mhm.
Okay, Jeff is saying don't stop.
Don't stop. I see an error message saying my VoIP connection to Jeff Kanata has failed.
Yep. Jeff, your thing is like freaking the fuck out right now. Usually reloading works. Hang in. So are you saying you're reloading or you want me to reload?
Dun, dun, dun.
Is Jeff getting hacked?
Oh. Hmm. No, that was not Jeff.
I guess if we stop the recording because Jeff didn't upload his shit, like
Yes.
we probably would lose Jeff's audio, right?
It does a cloud backup as it's doing it too, I thought, but not sure how this works.
Well, while we're here waiting for Jeff, I want to say thank you
ours,
to Morris. Thank you to Grant in the chat room for already backing the Patreon. That's amazing.
Thank you, folks. Should I just tweet it?
You're welcome to tweet it.
Okay.
Okay, stop and start a new session. All of us should refresh. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll stop recording.
And then wait for the upload? Wait.
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck Jeff's thing is going to upload. Yeah, Jeff's thing is toast, dude. Oh, wait, no. What do we got?
This is why we have backups. It's all good. Okay, reloading.
Wait, hold up. Oh, yeah, okay.
What?
Fine, go ahead. That's fine. Jeff, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, Devindra. Jeff, are you there?
Now it says this recording.
Let me refresh. Let me refresh.
Yes. We have cursed ourselves.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Now you sound weird? Are you doing that on purpose?
I sound weird? Hello?
You sounded like you were underwater just now. Yeah.
Am I okay now?
Can you hear me? Yes, now you're okay. It sounded like you were doing a weird supervillain voice.
I wasn't trying to do that.
That was disconcerting.
Damn it! This podcast episode was going great.
So
I was loving this. Now it's completely fucked.
It's ruined.
It's ruined. It's ruined. All right, Jeff's restarting his PC.
It could be a browser thing. Doesn't Jeff have like 64 gigabytes of RAM? Insane amount.
I'm gonna use the backup recording tonight. I think.
Yep.
Just because
that's fine.
You still yeah.
Yep.
Please leave all this in. Grant says.
That is the plan. That is the episode.
We're now at 6 patrons. Sean,
we could just sit here not saying anything and just watch this patron count go up. It's amazing.
This is the content we crave. Cacman11 says. Yeah, this is the After Dark. This is exactly what the After Dark would be.
Yeah.
This is what people would pay money to hear, is this quality audio right now.
Everything falling apart. Yes.
KS says, with more patrons, they can get better internet. It's true.
It's true.
So true. So true.
Actually, that is the thing. But I am sure Jeff has the best internet he can get in his area.
I don't know, dude. His upload speeds are kind of slow in this Zencaster thing. I like how Jeff was trying to. I like how Jeff was trying to lull me into a false sense of security with his Zencaster. Like I've really gotten. I was like, this Zencaster thing
solves all our
pretty
problems.
freaking neat. And now we see the downside of the Zencaster. But it's okay. It's okay. We have a backup. We're recording it live. We're also broadcasting it live. Like
I feel like
I'm
you
double
should
super
be able
secret
to
backup.
access, because Zencaster is making a copy on your computer. I feel like you should be able to just grab that somehow in like catastrophic failure. But
the problem is look at what's on the screen. Do you see Jeff's is not there?
No, yeah, I see. But I mean like from when he died, like to capture the earlier stuff, and we could just leap off of that. But
I don't see his audio on the screen.
No, I don't anymore. I mean like he would, because it would be his computer, but
yeah.
It's the whole thing. Anyway. Well, I'm seriously contemplating drilling holes in my walls to run Ethernet, and this is why.
Oh wow, Brandon Tate has pledged, has become a good sitter.
This is now a call-a-thon, so if you want the
Brandon.
Slapfilmcast to survive,
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, please, my child is hungry. There is a question for you on Twitter.
I see it.
About the PayPal stuff, but I'm not. I feel like Patreon would be better for everybody.
Yeah. They do take a shit ton.
Yep.
They take about 10%. Between 10 and 12%. But they also
none of this would be possible. Yeah. Without
but they also like make everything a lot easier. Like
There's a reason like PayPal tip jars didn't take off as much as Patreon. Yeah.
I wonder if Beatty is listening to this.
I'm gonna have to.
KS says, "Can you save the audio from YouTube Live?" Don't worry, I'm recording. I always record a backup piece of audio.
Yes.
So I'm recording it locally on my computer. But that's another reason I broadcast live. Oh, is Jeff back? Is Jeff back? Jeff, I'm gonna create a new Zencaster link, okay? I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll create a new Zencaster link. Okay, creating new Zencaster link.
Hello.
Hello, you're back.
Okay.
Kanata, you there? I still can't hear Jeff.
His health checks have not completed.
Neither Devindra nor I can hear you, Jeff.
All I see is running health checks on his audio thing.
I don't know what's going on, dude. Also, yeah, you're not passing the health check. Jeff's probably like screaming at his computer right now.
Replace me, will ya?
Oh, Jeff, your health check passed. Are you there? And still nothing. Devindra, you're still there.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Jeff can hear us both. I mean, right now it's looking like we probably need to switch over to Skype or something like that. Is what I'm feeling right now. So why don't we do that?
Okay.
Is that? Oh wait, no. Jeff says
I'm
wait.
fine. I'm fine.
Jeff says
What?
wait.
What?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
What happened?
I think there was a weird conflict with NVIDIA Broadcast and Zencaster,
Ooh, yeah.
and it lost its mind. Sorry, everybody.
You were
I
in a
downloaded
recursive
my-
recording loop. Yeah.
I downloaded my 27-minute track, David, in case you don't have it, but you
All
should be
right.
able to get it too. It downloaded as an MP3, not as a WAV, but
Okay.
you should be able to get it, no problem.
Good thing it died at a clean break. So.
I've had lots of worse problems with Zencaster than that, and it's we haven't lost anything.
Okay.
I mean, we haven't lost any recording. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What
Still
was the
good.
last
Still
momentum
good.
we've lost?
Yeah. It stopped the momentum in its tracks. What was the What was the thing you were talking about? I think you were talking about Emily in Paris, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what you were saying by any chance?
Nope.
I
Does
think I
anyone
had
remember
said
what the fuck
something.
Jeff was saying?
Yeah, I had said something and then Jeff died, so it was all me.
You know what? I saw some weird thing come up on my screen, and if I think I could have fixed this problem 10 minutes ago if I had recognized what had happened, because basically Zencaster just stopped listening to my mic.
Yeah.
It like switched my mic off. So there's that.
Okay, so I
Okay.
will send Beatty the backup recording, but we should be able to do this if she syncs all of our parts. So
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's just resume. Can you come in with something interesting about Emily in Paris?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
One last thing. We're about 27 minutes into the podcast, so in 13 minutes I'll need an ad, and in about 33 minutes I'll need an ad as well. Okay.
Sure. Yep.
All right. Here we go. So I'm gonna hit record.
Yep.
And then Jeff is gonna say something really fascinating about Emily in Paris. All right. Travel porn. Devindra says that's what we need right now. Okay. Beatty is listening in the chat room saying travel porn. That's what we need right now. Okay.
Beatty.
Thank you, Beatty. You're saving our lives.
Saving our
Okay.
asses.
All right,
as
I'm going to
usual.
count down, Jeff, and then you come in and respond to the idea of travel porn. Here we go.
Yes.
3, 2.
And it doesn't hurt that it's a bunch of very attractive American people and a bunch of very attractive French people who are talking in very attractive accents, all doing very attractive things attractively. You know, it's got sort of overtones of Devil Wears Prada. You know, it's this fish out of water story, but she's going to win them over with her pluck and her American ingenuity.
It is basically Ted Lasso in Paris.
It's a very bad version of Ted Lasso. It's Ted Lasso without any of the heart or cleverness. But you know, it's sort of like I said, cotton candy entertainment. My wife is digging it. I don't think it holds a candle to something like Sex in the City, although it scratches similar itches in the sense of sort of like, you know, vicarious living and you know, people wearing very expensive clothing in very expensive places, looking fabulous and saying very pithy things. It's, you know, it's what you expect it to be, really.
You're 2 episodes in, Jeff.
Talk about Patreon goals, by the way. /Filmcast reviews all of Sex in the City. Let's go. That's a tier.
That show is actually really good.
It's great. It's a fun show.
It's a great show.
So that would be a blast.
I think you just committed us to like 400 hours of entertainment. I don't know.
So Jeff, you're 2 episodes into Emily in Paris.
But my wife is like 6 episodes in. So
Same.
She was like, I'm just going to watch a few more of these before I go to bed. She's found her show where she can just sort of relax and de-stress and watch this Flight of Fancy. So I've already fallen off the train. You know, I'm that person who is like, oh, look, I'll get out right here and I'll just check out this other thing. And then the train takes off and I'm like, I guess I'm not on that train anymore.
No, you more like you leapt off while the train was moving. You was like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Keep rolling. Just keep rolling. You're fine.
I hit the ground and you tuck and roll. That's what you do.
Well, that's Emily in Paris. It's streaming right now on Netflix. Jeff, what else are we watching?
Well, So the oops, what did I do? The I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah,
Hang
you,
on.
you just
The
deleted you deleted a bunch of your show notes just now.
yeah, I didn't mean to.
This is going great. This is going great.
Please contribute to our Patreon. The the Ted Lasso is on Apple TV Plus, which I think we all, especially Devindra, I remember Devindra being very vocal about this, sort of derided the first slate of Apple TV Plus original programming.
They were pretty bad. Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of great. There was a lot of big names and a lot of high profile stuff, but the overall quality was a little disappointing from my perspective. I think Devindra was really critical of it.
I mean, you liked the morning show, and I didn't even like that. So yeah,
I liked is a strong word.
Yeah,
yeah. I found things to like about it. Yeah. But I do think this sort of second wave of it's a very small wave. It's a very, you know, it's not a crashing wave, but there's a few shows there that I think now I'm more and more tempted to continue my Apple TV Plus subscription beyond the free year that I got. Ted Lasso is one, and another is Long Way Up, which I have been watching. I have been eagerly anticipating when I heard it was happening because I was a fan of The Long Way Round and Long Way Down, which are two docuseries that happened in the early 2000s. And it starred Ewan McGregor, the actor Ewan McGregor, and his best friend, and it chronicled motorcycle trips, long adventure bike trips that they did across large swaths of the world, across continents that they just kind of took their bikes out and had an adventure seeing the world. And it was so wonderful to watch it through their eyes and live vicariously through them. And it's funny, you know, I talked about Eco Challenge a while back.
Yeah, your favorite show. Yeah.
Well, it was at that time. And it's sort of the same time period. I was watching Eco Challenge. I was watching The Long Way Round and The Long Way Down. And it was the same period where I was sort of, you know, just gotten to LA and I was watching all these, I don't know, it was the same type of show, like traveling the world, getting yourself into, you know, predicaments, dealing with weather and dealing with travel and all that stuff. And very romantic notions to me, right? I fantasized about doing something similar to what Ewan McGregor and his friend were doing. I'm not a motorcycle guy, but just the idea of like going somewhere and having this adventure, seeing the world, learning about new cultures and people, and getting off the beaten path. You know, this isn't like travel in hotel to hotel, or you know, it really is arriving in a place and you don't know where you are and you have to stop because you need to fill up gas or whatever. Very, very entertaining shows. Now, this is them returning to it over a decade later, much older people, although you wouldn't tell looking at Ewan McGregor, who is somehow unaged, but they are trying it in the context of a new world that we're living in. And that is, they're doing it with electric bikes, all electric bikes. And the support vehicles, the camera crew, the support team that they have, are in all electric vehicles as well. And they're going from the bottom, the very tippy bottom, I guess is a word that I just made up, of Argentina, of South America. And they're riding their bikes from the very, very bottom tip of South America all the way up to Los Angeles.
That's wild.
Wild.
How are they charging? What?
That is really the thrust of the first few episodes of the series. Is
I found a Tesla charger in the jungle, folks.
Yeah, exactly. How do we even do this?
One.
Right? How do we even do this? So the crazy thing is, I won't spoil too much of it, but the crazy thing is they're literally doing this trip on prototypes. They're like Harley Davidson built motorcycles for them. And then this other company, whose name I can't remember at the moment, this other company built pickup trucks, electric pickup truck vehicles, and they're literally the model numbers of the pickups are 001 and 002. Wow. And so and that same company installed charging stations in South America for them. But so it's wild. They're like literally in these not production vehicles, like on not production bikes, not production pickups.
Rivian, by the way. Rivian, which is a company that is doing really cool looking stuff. Yeah, I'm looking forward to
the trucks
cars.
are slick looking, man. They're so really cool.
Yeah.
full of tech, really fascinating. But yeah, they're like, we don't even know. No one has driven these, let alone driven them 170 miles a day for
Right.
180 days in a row. It's like bonkers. And even companies would be like, yeah, well, let's try it. And they get into situations like I think the first episode or second episode, they get into a situation where they run out of juice and they have to like tow charge it, where one car pulls the other, and then through kinetic energy they charge the battery. It's like wild stuff, and so fascinating, so fun from just a tech head perspective, seeing how they handle those challenges. They'll like pull into a town and go this town. A town is a strong word for it. It's a few houses in the middle of nowhere in South America, and they come to what is basically the only hotel in town, and they go, hey, can we plug in overnight here? It's wild. And very, very entertaining. I highly recommend the show. Ewan McGregor, of course, charming, but his friend is also quite charming. And especially now where I can't travel at all, and just seeing people travel is a treat to live vicariously. So a long way up on Apple TV Plus. It gets a big thumbs up from me. I'm very, very much enjoying it.
Cool. True fact. Interviewing Ewan McGregor in 2008, July, was my very first celebrity interview on the Slash Filmcast ever.
Wow.
And he was promoting Long Way Down at that point.
Oh, wow.
Which at the time I was like, oh, this sounds like, I certainly didn't think it would still be a thing 12 years later. I'll put it that way. But it's cool.
He just seems like a nice guy.
Yes, he is
like
a
such
very,
nice
very
human.
pleasant fellow. Very pleasant fellow, and obviously ridiculously good looking. But Long Way Down, 2008. Now Long Way Up, 2020 on Apple TV Plus.
The thing too that's so marvelous about it is that they'll be driving on motorcycles through dirt roads that aren't even roads. It's just gravel, over many hours in the day, just beaten down by weather. They start in the snow in Argentina, and they get out and just weary after an entire day on the road, and he pulls off his helmet and his hair is perfect. Perfect. It's like, of course that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Of course.
Do you think that shot was actually set up, or did it look real? Like that's
I feel like he's just naturally always the handsome person. He's just one of those people.
I mean, you pay for that. Yeah.
What else have you been watching, Jeff Kanata?
Well, I also took Devindra's advice a few weeks ago. Devindra mentioned introducing his daughter to My Neighbor Totoro on the HBO Max. Has an entire Studio Ghibli channel on HBO Max, and I'd been meaning to do it. Finally got around to doing it this week. My kids don't watch movies so much as memorize them. They get into ruts. You will see a movie
hundreds of times by a single week. Yeah,
they will get into a rut where all they want is the same movie 4 billion times. So I have seen Zootopia 400 times, and it's not all of Zootopia. Your
horizons a little. Yeah,
it's only the first 35 minutes of Zootopia, because then it gets scary at a certain point, and we need to start over from the beginning again, where it's light and fun. So anyway, I was in desperate need of introducing a new experience, and honestly I wasn't sure how my kids were going to handle it, because they haven't watched very many movies. They've watched Cars, they've watched Zootopia, and that's about it. They watch a lot of TV type stuff, but not long form movies. My 4-year-old son instantly magnetized to the television.
This is a perfect movie.
Utterly transfixed, and I was so delighted by that. My daughter was into it as well. It does get a little sad and a little scary at points, but there was a couple of hiding behind things when the soot goblins were moving about. But man, it's delightful to watch. I loved seeing them watch hand-drawn animation, which is rare. I mean, they've seen a few things that are hand-drawn, but it's very rare these days to see that kind of stuff. And you were absolutely right, Devindra. It's a great way to introduce kids. And my son was like, "No, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it." Like 30 seconds in, couldn't pull him away from the from the film. So
that's great. I'm
yeah.
glad it's hitting off. I will say once they're open them for more, I think Kiki's delivery service is a good one because
Yeah.
it's fun and like there's not many scary things. I just introduced my daughter to Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which I thought she'd be too afraid of. And this is a movie, by the way, about a world that has been destroyed because of humanity's hubris, and you have to go outside in masks, otherwise you die in 5 minutes. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I get it. I get this movie right now." So yeah, there's a lot of places to go with Ghibli.
All right, well, that is My Neighbor Totoro. And Jeff, should we have a break first, or should we go to Scare Me? What do you think?
I got a lot to say about that one, so maybe we can do a break first.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to thank some sponsors and then come right back. All right, Jeff, what else have you been watching this week?
So, you know, our mutual friend, Danish Syed, he's the reason that I'm on the cameo.com/Jeff Cannata. Sole reason, the only reason.
Yeah. Okay.
I trust him.
Hateful, Jeff, what you just said. But okay.
Trust him just implicitly.
Yeah. Okay.
Impeccable taste.
Yep.
Impeccable recommendations. And he texted me a few nights ago and said, I know you only did the free trial, 7-day free trial for Shudder.
Yeah.
But you have to watch Scare Me. It's phenomenal, and it feels like it was made for you. And you know, I'll do anything that Danish says because he's never steered me wrong, giving me great life advice and career advice, and it's just a trusted friend. And trusted people you can trust that are friends, just few and far between. You know what I'm saying, guys? It's too rare to get solid, trusted advice from friends.
It's true. It's true.
Anyway, so I dipped back into the Shudder, and I thought, we got to have a little Spooktober content here on the /Filmcast. I got to bring my some Scaretober spooktacular shivertainment for the faithful listeners, right? Because they're lining up to be patrons at this point. They deserve some thrill-tober action. So.
Let's keep going with this.
Yeah,
wow.
it's excruciating. Continue though.
Yeah.
So I popped in the Scare Me last night. This is a Shudder original film, hour and 40 minutes, and it is definitely my jam. I really, really dug it. I don't know if it'll be for everybody, but it is certainly for me. You guys know how I love movies that are barely movies, that are basically just two people in a room talking.
Two people in a room. Yeah.
That's this movie. It is sort of a love letter to storytelling. It's comedic in parts, lighthearted and fun, but also, it's called Scare Me. It's talking about some scary stuff, but it is two characters that find themselves in a remote cabin in the snow, and they start having a scare off where they just start telling stories to each other. And we don't then take the movie into their fantasy world where we see their stories. We just stay with them and let them tell us the story. But they sort of flesh it out with Foley work and very, very light flourishes, camera moves and lighting changes and stuff. But the idea is they're sitting around the campfire and they're telling each other stories. So imagine, I don't know if either of you guys have seen Middleditch and Schwartz.
Yeah.
We
The improvised,
a little bit,
the 2-man improvised comedy show that's on Netflix. Highly recommend it. Love those guys. They're fantastic, and their long form improvised comedy is top notch. But if anybody has seen Middleditch and Schwartz, you know that they play all the characters in a scene. They move around. They sometimes step out of the scene and comment on it in a meta way and kind of laugh at it. And they'll do different voices, and they'll do different physical stances to be in. It's an improv show where they're creating scenes out of nothing. They're pantomiming. It's called space work. They're creating it all on stage in front of you, an entire scene or entire story with dozens of characters. That's this movie, except it's not improvised. That is what this movie is. It's two characters doing that, but sort of bolstered by actual Foley work, actual sound effects, and sometimes manipulating their voices and doing cool camera moves. And they tell multiple stories. The stories are fascinating and interesting. The actors are great and do a fantastic job. The female lead is I should have her name in front of me. She's the female lead from You're the Worst, which is a show I enjoyed. Yes, she's great.
Yes, yeah.
She's so great. And Chris Redd makes an appearance, but it's basically a two-hander for almost the entire thing. So it's basically like watching Middleditch and Schwartz, but done with a little bit of effects work, a little bit of cool camera work, and the horror genre. It also ends in a really clever way. It has a fun little twist at the end that's clever and fun. I highly, highly, highly recommend Scare Me if you're at all in sync with my sensibilities, because it was a home run. Not like anything I've ever seen in the horror genre before. Really, really wonderful use of language. It's a love letter to storytelling. Like, they're critiquing each other's stories as they go, trying to make them better. They step out and comment like, oh, maybe she should do that in that moment. No, do it this way. That kind of thing. They're like sculpting these stories and having a competition of who can tell the scariest, best told story. And then it also has something to say at the end, which is pretty great. I was very impressed with Scare Me and highly recommend it. It's worth upping the $5.99 for a month of Shudder. Very much worth it just for that one movie, Scare Me.
A few thoughts, Jeff. First of all, it's actually fairly easy to find a 30-day free trial for Shudder right now. I was able to find one. I actually located one after you mentioned last week's movie, right? What was it?
Too little, too late, Dave. Sounds like too little, too late.
Okay, that's weird reaction. Wow. But what was the movie? Host, right? You mentioned that.
Yeah.
So you were so glowing about that movie, and then I thought to myself, okay, I need to get a Shudder trial at least to watch this movie. Now this movie Scare Me comes up as well. You know, Jeff, you went into this whole thing saying, hey, I'm not a huge fan of horror. Meanwhile, this is a couple weeks where you've recommended.
This is your second Shudder.
This is your second Shudder recommendation, Jeff.
Nobody is more surprised than me, Dave. Nobody is more surprised than me. Here I am, this fan of Shudder all of a sudden. I don't know.
Reviewed a Shudder movie too.
Yeah. How did I find myself here? I don't know.
How did I get here? Okay. That's Scare Me. It's available right now in Shudder, and it's fairly easy to sign up for a 7-day or even a 30-day subscription. I'm looking forward to enjoying my trial this month.
But also, really I think the movie, both of those movies, like Host and Scare Me, it's worth the $6. Like $6 for a month. It's, even if you don't get a free trial, it's worth it. That's a bargain at that price.
Yeah, I believe in, you don't need to tell me, Jeff. I believe in paying for the medias.
Now you keep telling people about ways you can get more free stuff. I'm just saying, Dave. I'm just saying.
All right.
Although if they do get a free trial, they can use that money to become patrons of the Slash Filmcast.
Yeah, really nailing it, Jeff.
Wow.
Okay, Devindra Harder, what have you been watching this week?
Oh, I've been binging The Haunting of Bly Manor, which I've been waiting for so very long. This is Mike Flanagan's second Netflix series. Actually, I think he was producer on a couple others before, but yeah, this is
he's the Haunting of Hill House guy, basically.
Haunting of Hill House guy. This is it's not a sequel because it's a completely different story. So I think he's treating this as a sort of like anthology thing, like American Horror Story. And it's also very different because I'm about halfway through this show and it is sort of like gothic horror, gothic romance. There aren't actually many scares. Instead, it's it's a show that's all about people dealing, with their personal demons and their guilt and everything. And it's really interesting to see him kind of work through horror like this. The setup is an American nanny comes to London and she has to be a nanny to two creepy kids. Wow, is this sort of like the thing? Wow, what's going on here? But
expats all around.
She gets a job off in the English countryside for this giant manor to take care of two kids whose parents have died. The nanny's also going through her own like personal thing. I think like her story is sort of the first thing you run into where you're like, oh, ghosts are in this world because she is haunted by this thing she sees in the mirror, so she has to cover up every single mirror she comes across. And it's a really fascinating show. I'm really digging all the characters. There's a housekeeper, a cook, all of who have really interesting storylines of their own. And what's kind of fascinating is that it's all around this giant English manor. And yeah, there are certainly ghosts. There are freaking ghosts everywhere, but it doesn't jump to yeah, it doesn't use jump scares at all. It doesn't really feel like horror. Instead of it's more like just creeping dread, because something about everybody is kind of broken and they're all just trying to deal with it in their own ways. And sometimes you get possessed by an evil ghost and shit happens. I'm really digging it. If you liked Haunting of Hill House, I feel like this would be right up your alley. It is not like horror in the way we think of it, but it does make me think of like just how much I enjoy how Mike Flanagan plays with the horror genre. Oculus
When you say
was
it's not
one of
like
his
horror the
first
way we
movies.
think of it, what does that mean? Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't have the jump
It's
scares,
not
or it's not as
scary.
bloody.
Like
Yeah.
it's not scary in the way that you think a horror movie, would be scary. Like
Mm.
there aren't many scares, but there's dread, creeping dread, and maybe once in a while you'll see a ghost that will kind of freak you out a little. And sometimes the sound design will play that up, but it's not really a jump scare. It is.
Would
It
you
is.
would
Sort
you
of
say a
like,
Haunting of
yeah.
Hill House is a conventional horror film though, or a conventional
Much
horror?
more so.
Yeah, got
Much
it.
more so
Got it.
conventional, because Haunting of Hill House there were a lot of jump scares. There was a lot of moments where that show was really trying to like you make you startled
Yeah.
by something you see in the background. They used to hide. They hid ghosts throughout that show too. So if you rewatched it, there's just creepy stuff that you will notice even more. Like I feel like that show really tried to hone in on the sort of haunted house idea, whereas this one is more like English Gothic stuff, where it's a bit like, I don't know, I'm getting shades of like give me some good Gothic stuff here, like Jane Eyre in a way, sort of like the sort of idea of like lost romance and the guilt that you carry with you through your life, and how that can affect you and how that can show up as an apparition or something, and maybe it's actually a ghost. I don't know. I'm halfway through the show. I'm really enjoying it. I love this storyline, these characters, and a lot of the actors from Hill House appear here too, with questionable English accents. Like Carla Gugino is here with playing much older than her age, I think, and she's fine. But I've definitely seen reviews, especially from English outlets, floating around saying like, "Good God, the accents in the show are horrific." I don't have a problem with it, but it's funny to see the English press just kind of tear this apart a little. But yeah. Anyway, I love Mike Flanagan. I love what he does with horror. Oculus. That was I love that movie because it's a horror movie where people know that they know the rules, right? They're smart. They know like not to fuck with this mirror. They know how, like, they've lived their entire lives fighting it. And it's a horror movie about people who understand the rules of horror. This one is he's playing with Gothic romance and horror in a way that is just kind of interesting and fascinating to me. I see a lot of people being bored by it, but I think it does really cool things. It plays with time in interesting ways. And if you finished Hill House, I think that was one of the more interesting bits of that show. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but that show had a really interesting thing where it was like something that haunted you through your entire life could be something you didn't even realize, something that's actually very personal to you. Anyway, Haunting of Bly Manor, very good. I love Mike Flanagan. I want him to keep making all the things. Incredibly well written, really good watch.
All right, and that Haunting of Bly Manor is streaming right now on Netflix. I was a huge fan of Doctor Sleep. That is a movie that bombed last year.
Such a good movie.
I love that
solid movie.
Yeah.
Solid movie.
Very handsome lead actor too.
Mm-hmm. Let's put him on a bike, shall we? Yeah.
Yes. It took me a second to remember who it was, Jeff. I was like, I know this is some kind of joke. But okay. Devindra, what else have you been watching?
2 quick shout outs. I've been watching Larry Wilmore's show, his return on Peacock, which is a streaming service that actually exists. It launched, and
say more.
I completely
say more
forgot.
about this streaming, this Peacock.
This Peacock from NBC, which is not a 30 Rock bit, because that is clearly something Tracy Jordan would like come up with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Wilmore, he's back. He's late night. He is ranting, and I've been catching most of this stuff on like YouTube. but I just love him. I love his personality and his perspective. Like one of his most recent videos was about undecided voters, and it's really just like, what the hell are you guys doing? You know, what are you doing? Like in 5 minutes, just really breaking down the argument of like, what the hell are you thinking? Do you want to like? I think one bit is just like, so you're tired of eating shit, right? But instead of instead of the guy giving you ice cream, you're not sure about their platform. You're not sure if they're selling themselves that enough. So you're gonna keep eating shit, but not be really hesitant about the ice cream. That really makes sense, doesn't it? Anyway, Will Moore on Peacock. You can catch a lot of it on YouTube. Peacock is free plus paid for some shows, but this one is free and you can check it out pretty easily.
All right, that is Larry Wilmore on Peacock. And what else have you been watching, Devindra?
Just a little slice of joy. Selena plus Chef is a show about Selena Gomez trying to cook while video chatting with like an award-winning chef, and that's all it is. That's the show. It's on HBO Max. I shall say very little more because that's it. That's the show. It's just her fumbling around her kitchen and a chef like just being really sad about it and her friends trying to help her out. I find it's really endearing. It's kind of like a real life sitcom because she is adorably clueless in a way, but she's also funny and entertaining. It's like, oh, this is why she is so, she's so good at this because she grew up being such a great entertainer. And I like cooking shows in general too. So it's kind of a nice little light, fluffy cooking show thing. And Selena Gomez is a treat. So check it out. It's on HBO Max.
All right, that's Selena and Chef. Let me run through a few things I've been watching. First of all, I want to give a shout out to a short film called 2020, which is a parody of the movie 1917. I don't know if you guys saw this. It's kind of starting to go a little bit viral on YouTube.
I've not seen this, but
yeah,
okay.
It's basically it's like kind of a parody of 1917 where it's all done in like one long shot. Or a few shots, and
great idea.
I mean, I'll read the opening card. It says, "This short is a parody and love letter to the film 1917. It's an adventure about two roommates attempting to survive nearly every insane event from 2020, presented as one unbroken shot." 2020 was written, directed, shot, and edited by one person, supported by a small producing team. Took us 3 months to create, contending with safety regulations, filming at dusk, lost footage, and nearly no budget. So, like, it was real hard. Thanks for taking the time to watch and stay safe. So this is on a YouTube channel called Ascender, and it was directed by Stephen Ford. And Stephen and I follow each other on Twitter, and I saw him tweeting about this, and this thing's pretty cool. It's at about 100,000 views. Check it out. It's just a really cool piece of DIY filmmaking. You know, it looks like very scrappily made, but it's also like the idea. It's not just kind of a technical exercise. It's not merely a technical exercise. It also tries to comment on what is happening right now in our world, and it uses the long continuous shot shtick for interesting effect. So I'd recommend checking it out. It's free. It's on YouTube right now. It's called 2020 1917 Parody. So, and let's see. In the remaining time, I will say, give a shout out to this email I got from Adam Moore, who writes into /filmcast@gmail.com. I don't have a Twitter account, but wanted to recommend David Attenborough's latest documentary to the podcast. So let me pause here for a second. If you want to recommend something for what we've been watching, use the hashtag /tag. That's the hashtag symbol, the word /tag. A lot of people have been doing it. And if you search hashtag /tag, you'll find all the things that people have been recommending for us. So every now and then somebody says, I don't have Twitter. I don't want to do any of that. And Adam is one of those people. And he writes in, I don't have a Twitter account, but I wanted to hashtag /tag recommend David Attenborough's latest documentary to the podcast. It's part nature documentary, part biography on David Attenborough's life. The film describes itself as his witness statement to the changes in global climate. Obviously, that portion of the movie is depressing. However, the last 40 minutes of this brisk 90-minute documentary are dedicated to real-world solutions that humanity can take to reverse the damage. I promise you that you will walk away hopeful for our future after taking my advice and watching this for the /Filmcast. This movie hasn't been able to crack the top 10 on Netflix in the U.S. since it debuted, and I believe the /Filmcast can introduce it to a wider audience. It is my sincere hope that David Attenborough's life on our planet will be the next feature review after Ted Lasso. That's Adam from South Carolina. Sorry, Adam, that is not going to happen, but I am mentioning it right now during what we've been watching, which is just as good.
Still get that Filmcast bump.
Still get that selection. So it's David Attenborough, A Life on Our Planet, and it basically is, it's what Adam described.
Yeah. He just can't stop talking about our planet, man. You know, like, man.
It is ostensibly a documentary.
Wow.
Ostensibly a documentary about David Attenborough's life, but like, because that's what the title of the documentary would imply. But in reality, it's basically David Attenborough giving a sermon. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean,
I'm down for that.
He's a very compelling speaker. He's very smart, very knowledgeable. He's in his 90s, and he has seen the world literally transform in his time studying nature. And you get a sense of how it has transformed and how dire of a situation we're in. But the one thing that I really took away from this is the idea that mankind has basically altered the world, like it has reshaped the world around itself. And there's one statistic in the movie that really stuck with me. 1/3, like if you take all the mammals in the world and like put them on a scale, right? Like 1/3 of that weight would be humans. 60% of it would be mammals that are specifically bred to be eaten by humans. And then 4% of it is literally everything else, from mice to whales, right? And so like so much of mammalian life is basically just food to eat. And obviously, you know, for those who are vegetarians out there and know like that eating meat or stop eating meat, is one of the things you can do that will be extremely impactful from a carbon footprint perspective, because so much energy is spent raising and feeding and processing meats. And so anyway, that's just one of
What's
these
the
several.
other 6%?
33%.
You don't want to know, Jeff.
Yeah,
You don't
Oh,
wanna
you said
know.
33. I thought you said
Yeah.
60, 30, and 4.
No, I said a third of humans. Yes, but
I see.
but I'm glad to see you're checking my math instead of focusing
Real
on what I'm
time.
actually saying, Jeff. Thank you for that. So anyway,
I thought
think
there were secret mammals somewhere that we didn't know about.
Look, it was just rough estimates, okay, Jeff? It's just who knows how they calculated that stuff anyway. So anyway, there was many interesting facts like that, but it's really breathtaking what humanity has done to planet Earth, and this documentary kind of gives you a sense of that. I think it's even less than 90 minutes. It's like 88 minutes. It's very short, but it gives you a taste of how the world is changing and what we need to do to and there's this whole thing about like, oh, we got to save the planet, right? But I think all of us know the planet's going to be just fine, right? It has survived asteroids and volcanoes and all this crazy shit. Really, when we're talking about saving the planet, we're talking about saving ourselves, because the planet's going to be fine. It's humankind that might not survive. And this documentary, David Attenborough, A Life on Our Planet, streaming right now on Netflix, is basically a plea. Hey, there's still time. There's still time to do what's necessary to save ourselves. So check it out.
I hope so.
It's David Attenborough, Life on Our Planet on Netflix, and it is worth considering. And consider maybe letting this documentary inform who you vote for this fall, you know? Because I feel like there's a party out there in the United States, at least, that values science, and might be something you want to factor into.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dave.
Indeed. Indeed. All right. That is. Let's actually move on to let's do weekly plugs. We're gonna do weekly plugs. Let's do weekly plugs. Weekly plugs. Let's do weekly plugs. Plugs. All right, welcome to Weekly Plugs. It's a segment of the show each week where we plug something that we've either been working on or have been in, or that someone we enjoy or that we like has created a piece of work that we think is worth highlighting. I want to highlight a video I made on my YouTube channel this week, which is a tour of my Blu-ray collection. This is something that patrons on my personal Patreon page had been requesting for a long time. So I put it together this weekend. And really, mostly the reason why people want to watch this is to see my wife roast me for all of my terrible decisions. So if that's something you're interested in, check out my tour of my Blu-ray collection on my YouTube channel. We'll link to this in the show notes as always. So that is my weekly plug. Devindra Hardor, what do you want to plug this week?
Just a little thing. We had a special guest on the Engadget podcast last week. A guy called Bill Nye.
What?
Bill Nye,
the science guy.
The science
Nice.
guy. Bill. It was great. We had him on to talk about. He's releasing this new like VR science kit, which is going to be kind of cool for kids. So they could do some AR stuff. They can stick their phones into like a cardboard thing and get some VR tutorial from Bill Nye. That's all well and good. The main reason I want to talk to Bill Nye was because he's freaking Bill Nye, and he is angry. He is so angry. So I kind of just like launched some questions his way, and he went off, like railing against the Trump administration, railing against like our lack of like science knowledge in this country, and really, it is the David Attenborough thing, basically, Dave, but also it's Bill Nye doing it, and he's angry. And he's not afraid to swear on a podcast, I think, or I don't think he swore, but he was very, I feel like if he was talking like this on a late night show or something, his manager would be like off screen, like shut up. We just let him keep going. So if you want to hear an angry eco warrior,
Bill Nye Unplugged. Basically.
Bill Nye Unplugged. I love it so much. It was a great chat. So check him out on the Engadget podcast.
Bill Nye Unleashed, actually. That was maybe the word I was looking for. But Unplugged, that also works, like NTV Unplugged. Yeah, check that out on the Engadget podcast. Jeff Kanata, what is your weekly plug?
Well, I'm going to talk about the Dungeon Run, which is my weekly long-form Dungeons & Dragons show, not just for fans of Dungeons & Dragons, for fans of any kind of storytelling. I'm the storyteller in this case. I'm the Dungeon Master making up the story, having the players move through it. They're improvising their way, figuring it out, playing characters in my world. And we just got last week to episode 67, which turned out to be the thing I have been building toward for almost 2 years. It is the culmination of so much of the world building and events and bad guys machinations. It's what I'm calling the end of Act 1 of our story. And I just wanted to read some of the YouTube comments on episode 67 of the Dungeon Run, the episode entitled The Shattering. Here's one. Holy pepperoni, that is astonishing. I watched this episode because I couldn't sleep. Now I can't. Here's another one. That, simply put, was brilliant. Best show on the internet, and it ain't even close. Why can I only press the thumbs up button once? I would sit here nonstop clicking at all hours of those magnificent episodes. Here's another one. Wow, that was epically incredible. Jeff, you are a master storyteller. Single best D&D or D&D related thing I've ever seen. Oh my goodness. So here's another one. Amazing episode. Wow. Bravo.
Well, Jeff, I think it's fair to say I'm glad that you read all the comments I left, and I assume my check is in the mail.
Those were all from different people. Dave Chen 1, Dave Chen 2, Dave Chen 3. All unrelated. But no, seriously, this is a show that I'm extremely proud of. Last week's episode, I think, blew some people's minds, including the cast. They didn't know what was coming. And I just welcome people to give it a shot. If you like things like Game of Thrones, if you like things like Lord of the Rings, check it out. We are an audio podcast. You can listen to us like an audiobook. I promise it works that way. There's incredible live scoring for the show. We have a music team that layers in music in real time as we're streaming. That makes the show awesome. But the visual side is incredible too. Last week we had a physical model of the inside of a volcano that the team got to play on. Check it out. It's on YouTube. If you search for The Dungeon Run, it's an audio podcast. And we also stream live, and you can participate in, I think, the coolest community around, folks that are there live, influencing the show in real time. Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific time, at caffeine.tv/The Dungeon Run.
I'm expecting something big for you from you, Jeff, in 2 episodes. So really, really wow.
For episode 69.
Yeah. You better be good. Okay.
Yeah. I'll work on it.
Those are our weekly plugs. We also want to thank the people who donated to the podcast, made one-time donations to the podcast. Soren Pertz, we already mentioned him earlier, and his wonderful message. Also, Radio Static writes in from the Minister of Chance in Cheshire, England. Just a lot of pseudonyms going on here. Dear boys, wanted to explain why I felt compelled to make this donation. I could summarize it in one word: respect. You respect the medium and the audience. The careful and thankfully quite long spoiler bumper speaks to your concern for the audience's enjoyment rather than a reviewer's desire to talk. Under the courteous curation of Dave, guests, reviewers, and movies are allowed to breathe and to shine. We are set a gentle example in how to regard art with enthusiasm and humanity by all three of you. Thank you for years of unmissable entertainment. That is from the Minister of Chance, a.k.a. Dan. P.S. Some of Jeff's jokes constitute a crime against humanity, but we forgive you. A real, really plunged the dagger in there at the end, Jeff.
Yeah. That does feel like it was written by you as well, Dave. So I don't know what to take of it.
If you want to make a one-time donation to the podcast, paypal.me/filmcast. That's paypal.me/filmcast. Or if you want to support us for no money at all, just go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review for us or a star rating. It really does help. Let's get to our review this week of Ted Lasso.
Oi, mate, there's you.
I believe it is.
Wicked. You coaching football. You are a legend for doing something so stupid. I mean, it's mental. They're gonna murder you.
This is a bit of news from the other side of the Atlantic. AFC Richmond announced the hiring of their new manager, American football coach Ted Lasso.
You're an American who's now in charge of a football club despite possessing very little knowledge of the game.
Oh!
I know that AFC Richmond is going to give you everything they got, win or lose. Or tie. Right, y'all do ties here. Did you see that? He must be from England, yeah? Wales. Is that another country?
Yes and no.
How many countries are in this country? 4.
Like it or not, Richmond are changing the way we do things. And from now on, that way is the Lasso way.
Hey, look, this car's got an invisible steering wheel.
That was from the trailer for Ted Lasso, new series on Apple TV Plus. We watched all 10 episodes this week. I'm going to read the plot summary from the internet. Small-time football coach Ted Lasso is hired to coach a professional soccer team in England, despite having no experience coaching soccer. Okay, this was something that you guys both advocated for, and I want to take this time that we have tonight talking about Ted Lasso to like understand why it is this was so important for you to talk about this. Like, what was it like? This is a sitcom, right? What made you feel like Ted Lasso,
based off an NBC Sports ad?
Yes.
Yeah. A goofy,
it should not work.
dumb
Nothing about it should work.
Yeah. So Devendra, talk me through like why you feel like we don't review sitcoms in general on the podcast.
Sure.
Right. So
especially entire TV shows. Yeah.
Right. In general, we don't. So talk me through why you felt like this show was special enough to warrant our consideration.
I think because it is just kind of a perfect comedy. It is genuinely funny. I love every single character in this show. And, I've talked before, I'm not the biggest Jason Sudeikis fan, but I dig his shtick. I feel like if I knew Ted Lasso in real life, I would probably find him to be too unbearable, and I would not want to be his friend. But on this show and like his sort of like American optimism and like Midwestern charm, juxtaposed next to like really like the stodgy British folks who are very bad at expressing their feelings. I think it's a really funny dichotomy. Like that's just instant comedy right there. Also, the show was co-created by Bill Lawrence, who did Scrubs, and I'll watch everything he does because I love him so much. And I think it's great to have a show that's just it's a show about emotionally mature adults. And then people who are super immature, but like may be on the path to getting better. And then some people who are just assholes. But I love shows about just smart people and nice people just sharing their kindness and like bringing goodness into the world. I really dig that. And it also does a smart thing of not just like making Ted this perfect, super optimistic guy, because there's some stuff he's dealing with too. and his attitude may even reflect some of the difficulties he's having with his own life. And I think like as a character, he's really well portrayed and kind of nuanced too, even though again, I would probably hate him if I knew him. But yeah, it's just so fun. I just love all these characters and love the journeys these characters make and sort of the friendships they make and the sort of impromptu unions they all bring together. Like somehow the people you wouldn't expect end up growing up or teaming up together and being pals and being very mature about their problems with each other sometimes too. And I appreciate that. I feel like we don't see enough of that on TV. This is sort of like the enlightened sitcom, basically.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Jeff Kanata, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on Ted Lasso were.
Well, Dave, I guess you could say my thoughts about Ted Lasso are best summed up in the form of a limerick. And if you want your own limerick, cameo.com/Jeff Kanata.
Yep. Nice. Nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you. The first episode is not a great start, but boy, does this show have heart. Each character finds this value in kindness, from Rebecca to Jamie Tart.
Okay. That was pretty good, Jeff.
Nice.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Finds
yeah.
this and kindness. I have to say, pretty good, Jeff.
Well done.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I adore this show, and I completely agree with everything Devindra said. This feels like a balm, a salve for 2020. It's a lovely expression of how kindness and being a decent, good person is actually has value. And there are a lot of shows out there that I enjoy that are good, entertaining, fun shows. I mentioned You're the Worst earlier in the episode as being a show I enjoy. But there's a lot of them that are sort of cynical and not
Difficult
sort of
people.
cynical.
All those shows. Yeah.
Yeah. People that are hard on each other, that are cruel and mean. And there's some fun in watching that. There's some humor to be gained out of that kind of thing. But I think the pendulum has swung a little too far in that direction. And we don't have very many people on TV who are just decent. And this show not only is decent, it revels in its decency. It's a joy. It is about being good to each other. And there are a number of shows. Now, I'm about to say some things, and I want you guys not to judge until...
Okay.
Don't judge until I've had my say.
Hey, okay.
Because I will go.
Yeah, I'm holding Dave back over here. Holding him back.
I will not judge, but then you cannot judge for the things I'm going to say later. Is that cool?
I know you're. I know you're teeing this up to hate this show, Dave, and it's going to break both of our hearts.
We're gonna have to have like a nice Ted Lasso heart to heart in the locker room. That's what this is going to come down to.
I know. Dave's going to tear us all down. Friday Night Lights is a show that I think is all about heart, and this sort of has themes of that.
Oh,
But
so much. Yeah.
As far as sitcoms go, now hear me out here. I will go toe to toe with anybody and say Cougar Town is one of the great sitcoms.
Oh, yeah.
No argument.
Love
no argument.
that show.
Yeah, no
I
argument.
Bill
love that
Lawrence
show
for the win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Now,
complaints.
it is one of the most poorly titled shows, and it has a terrible premise. Another show in that category that I think is one of the great sitcoms, taken away far too soon. Terrible title, pretty ridiculous premise. It was called Happy Endings. Now, why do I bring up those two shows?
So good.
Both of those shows, excellent shows, and the reason is they in their pilot, they jumped through hoops to establish a very specific premise that was a hook that was clearly the reason why these shows were sold to the networks they were sold to. The reason they exist is because this premise excited or motivated some executive somewhere to greenlight the show and make it happen, right? But the greatness of those shows is in direct proportion to how quickly they became not about their premise whatsoever. In both of those cases, in Cougar Town and in Happy Endings, the shows both became hanging out with these people. And these are fun, likable, good people trying to be good to each other. Cougar Town is about a group of friends having fun with each other. And almost every episode is positive. They all love each other. They're all doing fun shenanigans. Same thing with happy endings. Fun shenanigans, no cynicism, just good people being good. And I put Ted Lasso in that category as well. The first episode establishes this cockamamie premise that doesn't hold up even the tiniest bit of credulity. You know, this idea that an American football coach would be hired for English football, for, you know, soccer, basically, we would call soccer. It makes no sense. And then, of course, we have the ridiculous setup of the, you know, the producers or Major League or any of the other numerous examples of, well, they're secretly trying to tank the team for reasons, right?
Not so secretly. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, well, of course, it's going to, the whole thing is going to be this battle, and then we're going to win the day at the end, and that'll show them. But the show abandons that almost immediately. Now, there are threads of that keep popping up, but for the most part, the show becomes this exploration of these people realizing that being good and being kind is a good idea. And it's you get all of these archetypes that are clearly set up to be in opposition or to give friction for comedic purpose. And by midpoint in the show, they're all hanging out in a room being best friends. And it's just joyous to watch for me. I love that. You know, there's this club of, as Devindra pointed out, emotionally sort of mature people that can handle complex situations and not turn them into sitcom-y things, talk about them in adult ways and make kind of funny, good-natured jokes about them. I loved it. I just loved how mature the whole show felt, how decent everybody is. The arc of the first season is all about kind of coming to terms with just being good to each other. Let's all just be good to each other. And for me,
and
in
also,
2020,
by the way, like one thing I want to throw in there, Jeff, like it is not just being good to each other, because sometimes being good is not enough. It does kind of, it deals with that thing too, because I do feel like shows about relentlessly optimistic people can get annoying super quickly. Whereas this one's like, oh, no, there was one instance where it doesn't quite work. And I think that's told really, really well and very realistically. Yeah.
I agree with you. There are some hardships, there are some difficulties that characters work through, but they work through with the help of other people who are there for them. I mean, it is a show that seems to shed its cynicism very fast. And I needed that in 2020. I felt like, you know, and there are some things I want to talk about in spoilers, some specific moments that really moved me. And to have this kind of goofy show that is based on a skit that didn't really land very well when it was just an ad, to sort of find that voice and find that heart, I find to be pretty admirable, and I think well worth anybody's time. Now, Dave is going to tear it a new.
I'm fully ready for this.
Guys,
it's amazing.
I watched something this week that featured a bland white American dude traveling to another world unfamiliar to him and forced to adapt to some pretty rapidly changing circumstances while dealing with the loss of a loved one. Turns out that not only does he not flame out disastrously, as many people might easily predict, but maybe he can teach them a thing or two about how to live life to its fullest. But enough about the James Cameron film Avatar, guys.
Oof.
What?
Boom goes.
Let the silence
I guess you guys didn't like
Yeah.
that one. You guys didn't like that one.
Fizzle goes.
Didn't like that.
Dynamite.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Tough crowd tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying like Dave Chen's gonna hate it. No, that's actually not true. I'm gonna buck convention, Jeff. I thought it was completely fine and pleasant.
Wow.
Totally
Okay.
fine and pleasant. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Rousing endorsement.
no real objections until the last episode, when something happens that made me kind of hate the show. But I can talk about that in the spoilers. But
the Ted Lasso special play, is that what you're going to talk about?
No. We're gonna talk about it in spoilers. So, but suffice to say, you know, I thought it was fine. I had a great time with this movie. I agree with a lot of the stuff you guys said. Didn't hate it until the last episode, and then And yeah, many times throughout the series, I was genuinely moved. I agree with you that the show is like very optimistic, and it is about human goodness. It's not only about human, like the virtues of human goodness and kindness, but also like the virtue of letting go of anger and hate. You know, and I think that's a worthwhile message. So I have some more thoughts. It sounds like we all have some more thoughts and spoilers. Anything else we want to say before we get to that? Yep.
I want to say one more thing because this blew my mind when I found it out. Did you guys know that the woman who plays Rebecca, who I think is fantastic,
the woman who did the shame bell in Game of Thrones?
Shame Bell, thanks for stealing that from me, Dave.
You were asking the question. You were asking the question.
Wow.
You were asking it as a question. So
no, that was the question I was going to ask, and you just
kind
took
of
it right out
ruining
of my
this
mouth.
character for me, by the way, with this image because man, okay.
Yeah, she goes shame, shame, shame. That's the
basically
same
what she's doing in the show too.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, Dave does a podcast about that show, so I expected him to know. I didn't expect him to just jump right in and steal the moment from me. But
yeah,
there you go.
This podcast is going great. Okay, let's get.
Do you know the guy from Buffy's in the show, guys?
Let's get to spoilers for Ted Lasso starting right now.
Now you're looking for the secret.
You're gonna see this coming.
No. But you won't find it because, of course,
You're not gonna see this coming.
you're not really looking.
I have been puzzling over how it works.
You don't really want to work it out.
Who's in the box? I have been dying to tell you. I want to tell you my secret now.
You want to be fooled.
All right, let's talk about spoilers for Ted Lasso. I mean, I have some negative things to say. Should I start and then we end?
I want to hear. Yeah.
What's your thing in the last episode that soured the whole experience?
Well, guys, I mean, I have this feeling that Ted Lasso is actually what's wrong with America. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean Ted Lasso the show. I mean Ted Lasso the guy, right?
Because
I remember watching this episode of The Office season 2. It was in, I don't remember exactly which episode was it, but it was in season 2 where Michael Scott, and by the way, there's like a lot of Michael Scott energy in this show, I would argue.
Oh, most definitely. He is like if Michael Scott was actually good at his job.
Yeah, competent Michael Scott.
Well, okay. There's where I disagree with you because there's an episode in season 2, I think it's season 2 or season 1, one of the earlier seasons where Michael Scott goes to like corporate. He visits corporate of Dunder Mifflin, and he spends all this time like goofing off and like doing all these weird impressions and like basically embarrassing everyone in front of David Wallace. And then David Wallace at one point is like, "Hey, can we like cut the crap? I need to see these sales numbers." And then Michael Scott's like, "Okay, fine, here you go." And then I was listening to the commentary on that episode of The Office. This is like over a decade ago, and they were saying like it was very important for them to show that even though Michael Scott is obviously a goofball, he was still very competent at his job, right? And you actually see him throughout the course of The Office. You know, when he's still a consistent character, you see him do his job very skillfully. You see him; he is a skilled salesperson. And I always appreciated that dichotomy in that character. Was that like, hey,
sure.
even though this guy is a moron and absolutely mortifying, he's got some skills. There's an explanation for how he got to where he got to. And
For sure.
the thing that just killed me about the final episode of Ted Lasso is, okay, earlier on, Ted Lasso doesn't know what anything to do, like what any of the terms are, and he doesn't seem to understand anything. And it's like, okay, yeah, like that's fine. I understand. Like he's still learning. It's completely understandable, and it is ripe for comedy. So there's like many funny moments where it's like, I'm laughing along with you, show. It's a delight that Ted Lasso is so moronic. But surely he's gonna actually learn his shit. Surely he's not gonna go the entire season just completely ignoring the rules. You get to the final episode, and there's a very funny line, and I have to admit, the line is very good, where he says something like, the ref calls offsides, and then Ted Lasso says,
offsides,
"How are you going to call offsides? No, really, I don't understand the rules. Please explain it to me." And I mean, that's
that's
great.
a particularly
Nobody knows how offsides works.
That's
really.
particular. I mean, that's a particularly obtuse ruling and that Americans in particular do not understand.
Yeah.
So I think that
I played
mean,
soccer for years. I could not tell you how offsides actually works. I know it's something to do with defense going too forward, but come on.
I think that also, I mean, it was like episode 6 or whatever where he still didn't
Yeah,
understand like what relegation was. So it's the show is trying to convey to you that he doesn't really know what he's doing. And I think that offends me because it's like here's a guy
That
who
offends
like
you more than Michael Scott?
no, I think Dave, I think you're looking at it wrong. I honestly, I mean,
let me just finish my point, and then you can have the rest of the time to talk about it. Okay, so I'll just say that basically, I think this whole attitude of like, oh, we don't need expertise. Like, all we need is a can-do attitude. You know, it is what is wrong with this country right now. And Ted Lasso embodies it completely. And I didn't really realize
work out
that.
well for Ted Lasso, does it?
I didn't really realize that
just
until the
saying.
final episode. I rest my case. Okay.
no, but
go ahead, Jeff.
You're looking at it. I think wrong, and B, the show directly addresses it. So, firstly, I don't think it's him having a can-do attitude at all. It is actually something that I have been on a soapbox about for a long time now, for almost 4 years now, maybe longer, that I do think is wrong with America. And that is that everything that I teach my kid doesn't seem to apply to adults. Like the things that we teach our children, i.e., it doesn't matter how you play the game. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game.
Yep.
Right. No, what we learn is it doesn't matter how you play the game. It's whether you win or lose. Right? That's America in a nutshell. Capitalism in a nutshell is it fuck everyone else as long as you win. Just win, baby, is the American way. And what we all teach our kids is it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game. And Ted Lasso, through the entire show, is saying to everybody, I don't care whether we win or lose. It's about how we play the game. It's about these people as people. He says it explicitly over and over. And then his best friend, the coach, calls him out, has an explosive confrontation with him and says, no, you have to want to win. The show specifically addresses that. Like, it's not enough to just, we are professionals. It's not enough to just be good to each other. We have to also try to win. And so I think you missed the point, frankly, about what the show is trying to say, which is like, this isn't an either or, right? You can be good, decent. You can believe in all of these things that Ted Lasso is trying to put forth. You can believe that that guy should still be, that Roy should still be the captain. But the rules say, if you're second string, you're not the captain. So, we're doing it. And the show is explicit about that. So I think it is completely wrongheaded to say it's like, oh, just this American stupidity where we'll win the day. It's not about American stupidity. It's him coming in and going, I'm not here to be the guy that knows the rules. That's my assistant coach's job. And that's assistant coach. He constantly asks about it throughout. And that assistant coach knows his shit.
Yeah.
He knows his shit.
He's the chess master.
Yeah. And they get the other kid, the locker supply kid, and elevate him to coach status because he also knows the X's and O's very, very well. But Ted Lasso's role is not to be that, right? His role is to sort of galvanize all of those people around him. And then at a certain point, the show goes, no, Ted, that's also not enough. You gotta actually inspire people to win, or we will not be a thing anymore. And I give the show a lot of credit for that, actually.
Well, I will just say I don't agree, but I appreciate that. Like sometimes Jeff, during the course of the podcast, you change my mind about things. And that's happened a bunch of times. But I don't agree with you here. I think there's valid. You make valid points, but I guess I'm soured on the idea that like Ted Lasso is positioned as kind of. I agree with you. Like that was a cool scene when he gets chided for like not wanting to win, but I don't feel like Ted Lasso values excellence in his field either. Which is just something I can't sign on with given the tone of the show.
I will agree with you that it really rubbed me the wrong way in the first episode where he's like at that press conference and just like it's like I don't believe for a second that anyone would that this is a real moment in any stretch of the imagination. It's one of the reasons the first episode sat with me so poorly. But
I think the pilot is pretty great, by the way. Like it is sort of a masterclass in introducing you to these characters and the situation, everything. Like I'll say that, but it does get better. Like that's the thing. And I think that's the key to this series.
I agree. My favorite moment in the entire show so far, hopefully there's a second season. I don't know if it's been announced yet or not, but my favorite moment in the entire show so far is the game of darts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is like what's so magical about this show is that he straight up says it. He's like, he says the thing that I think is the thing you're pushing up against, Dave, which is like, in dealing with that other owner, that sort of, the villain, the antagonist of the show, he says,
Giles, what?
Yeah. He says, you have to be curious, right? You have to you have to ask questions like, do I know how to play darts? Right. I think it is directly speaking to that American mentality, that Dunning-Kruger fucking shit that we're all living through, where everyone seems to believe they know more about everything than they actually do. And it's Ted Lasso going, no, the key isn't like, you're not mad at me because you know something about me. You're mad at me because you're making assumptions, and we can't. Like it's all about asking the questions. And to me, that was what was so stirring and so moving about that scene, and so fucking rad. Like it was this amazing moment of just
a great smackdown.
Yeah, putting the dude completely in his place. But I loved that speech too, because it was everything. It was what I feel like we're going through in this country and around the world right now, which is this feeling of, Dunning-Kruger know-it-allness, where I know more than the scientists, I know more than the, experts. Fuck everybody except me, that kind of thing, and which I find so distasteful.
I think it was like the openness of Ted Lasso is the thing that really I appreciated too, because he is out there trying to elevate everybody around him and listening and taking in feedback. Like he's coming into this not knowing much about soccer, but he is out there engaging and listening to the guy who's just cleaning up, the locker room and actually doing something with the feedback he's getting. He's somebody who listens as much as he, is always talking, and kind of annoyingly so, but he is a good listener. And I think there's an empathetic, strain to him and his attitude that I think is really great. It's definitely not just about a can-do attitude, but I think there is something to be said. Like you're going to have a hard trouble winning if you don't believe in yourself in a way. And his magic is sort of finding, talking to people and trying to find that kernel and being curious and trying to figure out like what makes them tick and what makes them interesting. And I've had that experience too, like when I've managed people. Like to me, this is a great show about the idea of managing and leading. And I've managed, people for jobs and for work and stuff, and even for some reporting things. And it's a great feeling. And especially like if you kind of like jive with everybody else, like if you are very good at empathizing with your workers and knowing how to corral the team, that's how you make the team stronger. It's not always knowing all the plays or knowing all the rules, but really knowing how to make your entire crew work the best they can. That's what makes a good coach. And I think this show just gets to that, because you can find a lot of people who know all the rules. That's not going to be too hard. I'm sure he'll get there eventually, but this skill that he has here is something special. And I think that's what makes it so entertaining and seemingly so rare today.
Well, I still don't agree with you guys, but I'm going to point out a couple things I liked about the show. One of the things, actually, I think my favorite subplot of the movie, honestly, is Rebecca's subplot. I think that character goes through a whole journey and like
subverts expectations about that too.
Yeah, when she finally comes around at the end, it just is really very powerful. So, and this is a show where I feel like Bill Lawrence, one of the executive producers, like obviously a person who's made a lot of TV before, a lot of subplots, a lot of side characters, But I felt like, hey, the storytelling always felt under control to me. Like it always felt like, hey, this person, whoever's making the show, like has plans for all these people, and they're gonna like each have their own little moments. And I felt like that was the case. I also thought the Jamie Tart storyline was pretty interesting, pretty bold to get to like an emotional breakthrough with that character, and then completely remove the character from the show for like 3-4 episodes.
That was pretty crazy.
Pretty bold. Pretty bold. I admired that. I admired that. So anyway, there's a bunch of things I did like about the show. So don't get me wrong. It's not a show I hated or anything like that. But I was quite disappointed.
Your word, fine, Dave, is what is really getting to me here. Because what do you think is more than fine? Because I think it's really rare to find great sitcoms these days. Like I go back to the old stuff. I watch Frasier a shit ton. I watch a lot of Simpsons, which is still very sitcom-y. Like I like the classics, but the new stuff, it is really hard to find genuinely good new sitcoms. I think to me this just feels fresh and special.
Yeah, I mean, can we agree that Ted Lasso is a strong personality? Can we agree that Ted Lasso and that maybe he's just not for everyone? He's just maybe just not for everyone.
I've said multiple times I would hate this person in real life. Yes.
So I think it's more like just kind of the character. And by the way, according to Bill Lawrence, the show has already been renewed through season 3. By the way,
hell yeah!
All right, that's great.
Yeah.
But we get it immediately, please.
But I will say that watching the show, I appreciated the opportunity to watch the show not because I enjoyed the show that much, but because it gave me an opportunity to learn about you guys.
Again, David Chen.
Because it gave me the opportunity to learn about you guys and like what you're valuing in life right now, and I was grateful for that. So. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe you realize why last week when you suggested we watch, exploding face death camps or whatever it was that you were suggesting.
So I'm glad you guys really enjoyed this show, and I agree, it's like a pretty well put together sitcom, and just like well made all around overall. So, any other thoughts as we wrap up? If not, I think we can bring us to the end here.
We didn't say much about like his own troubles and everything. I just want to say I think this show handled him dealing with the dissolution of his marriage pretty well, because that is sort of like the specter at the beginning of the show. It's like, oh, you're going to London to do this and your family is over there, and isn't that kind of a problem? And I think it sets up like the idea that, oh yeah, they're a little disconnected, and his whole breakdown thing I think is really well done, because it's sort of like this is another emotional maturity thing. Like no matter how much you're the guy that everybody thinks can can fix things, he's good at trying to fix people and trying to innovate people and trying to like make them better and everything. And there's some things you just can't fix. And for him, like it's this one thing, and it is absolutely brutal. And I think really well played, and how he deals with it is really interesting too. Like the one night stand, I'm glad they didn't play that up for drama just yet, although probably in season 2 they will, if they like, I don't know, play up the Rebecca romance or whatever. But the aftermath of the one night stand is also just everybody being like, dude, did you do anything wrong? You're 2 adults who made each other happy and you didn't break any rules. Like I don't see the problem here. And it's sort of them also calling bullshit on his own, like, judgment of himself, and probably something he does to other people too. Like there's good calling out of bullshit in the show, even for the guy, who is the title of the show. I think the show does a good job of like keeping everybody in check. So I really appreciate all of that. Also, the one shouting scene he gets, where he's just shouting, who was the like cocky kid? Was it Colin? But he was shouting like when that kid was just really acting up, and he does the coach thing. He does the Coach Taylor thing of just like really hammering in, like what does it mean to be a team? What are you contributing here? Or what are you how are you hurting the team? And it's really all about practice and the value of practice. And maybe the show goes a little overboard there, because there's like a canted angle where it's never used that before, and it seems like they're really pushing it up. But I thought it was that his like Sudeikis there is fantastic. Like I feel like so many bits of the show could be Emmy stuff for him. He is just so good in it.
I really agree. And there's some goofy jokes that he pulls off with such charm that it's endearing. I think he's really excellent in it.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up then for tonight. Glad you guys liked it. Glad we had the opportunity to watch something happy. Every once in a while, it happens on the
next week. Get ready for Murderator, the Revengeing, like something. Cannibal Holocaust. We're gonna revisit Cannibal Holocaust.
There is a movie called I think is it Avengement that I was thinking of watching.
Yes,
I've heard it's great.
Yeah.
It's called Avengement, and it was directed by Jesse V. Johnson, and stars Scott Adkins. I'm kind of like, want to check that thing
Cannibal
out.
Holocaust. Here we come.
That's the end of this week's episode of the Slash Filmcast. You can find more episodes of this podcast at slashfilmcast.com. Email us at slashfilmcast@gmail.com. Our spoiler bumper comes from filmmaker and YouTuber Kyle Hillinger. Our theme song comes from adamwarrock.com. And our weekly plugs music comes from Noah Ross. This episode was edited by Beatty Zhang. Next
Tell
week,
the folks about that Patreon again, Dave.
Yeah, okay, so I was going to mention that. So, what do you think we're up to, Jeff, in this episode?
6. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real optimistic and say 6.
6 patrons, right? Just during this recording, you're saying 6.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive if it was true.
29 patrons, Jeff.
Oh, hell yeah.
29 patrons, baby.
It's not bad. Not bad for an episode that was 30 minutes of silence. Pretty good.
Okay, so people don't know. People listening to the final product don't know that.
You mean we're not leaving that in?
No, we're not leaving that in. But basically, earlier on, Jeff dropped out. Jeff's computer freaked out. He dropped out of the call. We had to delete 20 minutes of silence.
Yeah,
it was harrowing.
My computer borked itself in a real insignificant way.
It was harrowing. But we're glad to have you back. If Beatty did her job correctly, which I'm sure she did, you didn't even notice. So next week, we are going to be reviewing The Trial of the Chicago 7, which is going to be available on Netflix. Aaron Sorkin's new courtroom drama. I'm psyched to talk about it with you guys. That's going to do it for us this week on the Slash Filmcast. We'll see you later.